Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BUSR F1 Winter Series. This evening, we'll see round 3 of 8 at the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest. A little bit about the track to kick us off for this evening's action. First held in 1986, been a permanent fixture on the F1 calendar ever since. Seen multiple maiden F1 victories, the likes of Alonso, Button, Kovalainen, real heavyweights of the sport, including Heikki Kovalainen in that. Will we see another maiden race victory this evening? We'll have to wait and see. Cameron Searle enters this weekend's action as our surprise championship leader, but can he hold on to that position with the likes of Matty Mumu, Geek Joe and all the rest looking to topple him and get onto the top step of the podium? My name is Tom and I will be guiding you through this evening's actions. Not alone though, in the virtual commentary box with me this evening, it is Marley. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm not too bad. Nice to be joining you. It's been a while since I've done any commentary for the BUSR, so it's great to be back. Looking forward to this evening's racing, and yeah, there's a very close championship coming up. I believe you've got some information on that.
Yeah, well, it's been a really interesting start to the season. Matty Mumu taking the victory in Texas 2 weeks ago, and then last time out in Mexico, it was a brilliant drive actually from Cameron Searle, who was, I think he was in every position at some point during the race. He was up in the lead at the end. He was down in last at some point. Really good drive to come through and win that, which puts him in the lead of the championship. It is very close, though. I'm just going to get the points numbers up for you. So Cameron Searle leads, but, well, closer than I imagined. 1 point is the gap between Cameron Searle and Matty Mumu. That's how close it is. And then Geek and Joe separate, or they're level on points behind them. And then it's Jareki rounding out our top 5 on 168 points. Moving on to this weekend's action, though, the Hungarian Grand Prix. What are your thoughts on this racetrack?
So I've had the opportunity of competing in BUSR on this track, multiple disciplines. So GT racing, as well as within Formula One, as well as a bunch of messing around in Assetto Corsa. Brilliant game, by the way. Make sure you get on that. But yeah, it's one of my favourite tracks to race in both GT and F1. It feels like Monaco, but with less risk of putting it in a wall. I'd describe it as the sector just after the chicane is possibly my favourite part of the track, keeping it within track limits as the corners get tighter and tighter through. Sector 1, especially turn, I'm going to get this right because they number this track weirdly. I believe it is turn 3, I want to say, the right-hander. As well
yes.
as the corners, yes. Because they name it, it's 1, 1A, 2, something like that. It's something silly. But turn 3, turn 4, flat out in a Formula 1 car through turn 4. We're going to see some mistakes there today, I reckon. I think that's going to be the pitfall that some of our drivers come into. As well as the chicane. I mean, come on. Chicane, esports. I've done enough turn 1 Monza to see where that's going.
Yeah, massive curbs on the inside as well is going to probably enhance the action we get. But yeah, it's a real driver's track, this one. They do say it's Monaco without the barriers, and hopefully we'll be seeing a little bit of that Monaco magic sparkled in. But yeah, turn 4 I think is going to be the big one. That middle sector as well, though. Very technical. The corners really tighten on exit. You've got to be careful with those track limits as well. And it is actually, in certain places, a very low grip track. So I think we could see a few whoopsies throughout, especially qualifying, as people try and get warmed up and into a good rhythm. Getting ready to go, though. A few minutes left. Do you have any memories of this track? Obviously, it's been on the calendar for a while.
So, you mean in terms of BUSR or in terms of just in general?
Well, we can go both. Any of your favoured memories from your previous races?
I remember our first season racing in the BUSR here at Hungary, and for those of you who remember Deadeye, fantastic driver in Formula 1. He was a bit of a missile in GT racing, however, and there were a few incidents that came up throughout our GT season. The final race of the season came to Hungary, and I distinctly remember him being an absolute menace, trying to put the car on the inside through the second sector. You can't really go side by side through there, and we were all fairly new to racing, so I think there were quite a few cars in the side of the track, and I distinctly remember seeing his bright purple car coming up behind me, and me just kind of closing my eyes as he dive bombed me into turn 2. That's my memory of Hungary racing it. In real life, I think the one moment from Hungary that sticks in my head is I'm going to get the year wrong, is Lewis Hamilton on his own on the grid after that red flag.
2021, I think. It was like an F1 Open lobby.
It was so bizarre.
Like everyone had just disconnected.
Well, we've arrived in qualifying. Can't say the same about some of our drivers.
Yeah, I think that was someone just leaving there. Maybe as a massive firework goes off. Oh my word, that was enormous. We've got yeah, we've got some of the familiar faces in there. You can see down the bottom we've got Geek and Joe. 19 drivers joining us this evening. Matty Mumu, Cameron Searle towards the top of the championship. Some returning names as well that we haven't seen for a while. Alex Louch and SJ in the Ferrari. Haven't seen them yet this season. I enjoy the Huis Lamilton name. I'm a big fan of that one.
That messed me up for a second because I was trying to verbalize that in my head, and I felt like I could smell toast. I was having a bad time there. And we see a car leaving the pit lane. A few cars leaving the pit lane. Only 40, 50 seconds after qualifying started. I'm used to. I think it would have been F1 2022. Drivers would be sat in the pit lane for considerably longer than I'm used to. Obviously, in the GT racing, you could get your setup done in practice, right before qualifying, and then there's a massive queue at the end of the pit lane, and lots of drivers complaining about having no space. So everyone's spreading out fairly nicely here. I say that going through turn 2, there's a bit of a queue. But yeah.
Hopefully everyone will space themselves out as we get ready for our first runs, though.
Any favourites to take pole?
Well, it's got to be Matty Mumu, realistically. He got caught out by a bizarre incident last week where he went into the back of a slow car in an outlap. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been an Aston Martin. And that wrecked his qualifying session. I think he was down in P5 or P6. But he was dominant at COTA the week before. He's not too far off F1 esports pace. Which is a very impressive feat for a university student. It's going to be Jareki, though, that is going to kick us off for this session. And we're going to go for a little lap now around the Hungarian Grand Prix circuit to kick us off with the man that is 5th in the Drivers' Championship. Up into 8th gear now, down into turn 1, braking just past the 100-metre board. Try and get it in tight. You've got to rotate the car really nicely through turn 1 because it does catch you out on the exit with the limited traction you'll get. Through turns 1B, as we talked about earlier, with the very odd cornering names. Keeping it in 4th gear as you swing it through turn 2 and into this really fast part of the track through turn 3, absolutely flat out. Will he be able to take it flat through turn 4? I doubt it. Through the first sector split we go. It's a 27.2. Shift down 1 into 6th and then swing it round into turn 5. We've got a yellow flag in the final sector. I think that's just for cars backing off as the Red Bull gets out of the way. The infamous chicane we spoke about earlier, look at those massive curves on the inside of them. Gets through it pretty nicely as we come up towards this very technical middle sector. This corner in particular, very difficult. The curbs on the outside just suck you in, make it very easy to spin on those curves or exceed track limits and have that lap time wiped from existence. This corner as well, very difficult, but he hangs it in there nicely into the final sector now. A 90-degree right-hander. You can really cut the curb on the inside, actually. Carry a lot of speed through. Then his final two corners are unique, really, in F1. They're very long hairpins, both in 4th gear, you would imagine. Jareki, yes, he does shift down to 4th. But a pretty clean lap for him, though. He's going to open the DRS as we come out of the final corner. And our benchmark time for the session is a 1 minute 15.8. Good start for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, I can see that time coming down considerably. There was, I think, a couple of places where he left a little bit of time on the board, but obviously we're early on in qualifying. We're going to be seeing the times tumble as the track grips up and the drivers get a bit more comfortable with their setups. As drivers come on for their banker laps here, we see Alfa taking 3rd. We have a yellow flag in sector 2. That's not a usual place to be seeing people backing up. I believe a Williams has fortunately stacked it just coming out the chicane.
That would be surprising, considering it's Matty Mumu and Joe. If it is a spin, that would be a shock. Did you see the drift Jareki got there coming out of turn 1 as he finished that lap? That was crazy. It was proper rally stage action from him there. We've got Ice in the Haas in second ahead of 80 in the AlphaTauri, and then the two McLarens completing the top 5, followed by the two Mercedes, in fact, a bit 2x2, but that ends with Alex Lauch in the Ferrari. Huis Lamilton in the Aston Martin. That's not going to be confusing at all. On the medium compound tyres, as Matti Mumu smashes the benchmark from Jareki by nearly 0.6 of a second. It's a 15.2 as Blue Fire in the Alpine goes into 12th and last place for the time being.
I reckon we should be seeing the laps go down. I'm expecting high 14s, maybe a 15 on the dot, as Dyson takes pole position for the time being with a 15.2. I reckon 2, maybe 3 tenths off that time. That's what we'll be expecting to see as the pole time.
Yeah, it'd be impressive if someone can get into the 14s. That would be some very good pace. Dyson, though, getting up into provisional pole, goes ahead of Matti Mumu. He showed some pretty good pace round 1 in Kota. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. Driving the Red Bull, he was driving the Mercedes that time. So a car switch for him, new surroundings for him to get used to. We've got 15 times so far. Geek down at the bottom with a 21.8. Must have had to back off or came across a little bit of traffic during that lap. We'd expect him to go again and get towards that time that Cameron Sells got, our championship leader, getting up into 3rd place, and then Jareki in 4th. But that is going to be most of the first runs completed. You can see there, Geek 4 seconds up on that time through the first couple of sectors. This should put him up towards the top 5 as Joe now lowers the benchmark. We're into the 15.1s, getting ever closer to that 1 minute 14 time that you were speaking about. Where's Geek going to put it? Second lap on those tyres, so it might not be the most competitive. It's still pretty good though, with a 1 minute 15.5. Puts him into 4th, and it is Williams Red Bull, AlphaTauri, your top 5.
Very interestingly, I think what's happened there is Geek had to do 2 outlaps, because obviously his first lap timer 21 is not very representative. Perhaps he was blocked early on in the lap and just decided, you know what, I'm going to stay out, recharge the battery, go again. It's very unusual to see anyone do that kind of strategy in qualifying.
Yeah, I think probably was some kind of mistake. We didn't quite catch where it was. Maybe that was the car that was going slowly and letting a few people through. But it is Joe that leads from Dyson and Matti Mumu. The gap between them is less than a 1/10 of a second, though. Very tight between our top 3, and I would expect Geek to get very close to that as well. Looking further down, anyone that we need to be looking at? Who is Lamilton? That's going to be so difficult to get used to. Was out on the medium compound tyres. Didn't actually set a lap time, so obviously just trying to get a bit of a sighter and get into a bit of a rhythm as we start the session. First runs are completed. We've got 3 drivers yet set a time. Hamilton, I've done it again. Lamilton being one of them. SJ in the Ferrari, who is on an outlap, and then Wooly in the Haas is the other driver yet to go again. We're going to see it. Well, here is SJ now, as if we predicted it, starting the first flying lap of the session. We'll be looking to try and get towards that top 10, you'd imagine. His teammate Alex Lauch, there's actually a big gap between GMT and the second Mercedes and Alex Lauch in the other Ferrari, so maybe looking to slot in that gap. Opens the DRS nicely and looks to set off on this flying lap.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a lot of these drivers throughout the seasons. You know, their strengths, their weaknesses. I think SJ will be looking to breach that top 10 around about the 16s. I'm hoping that we get the field bunch up a bit in times. I remember, I think it would have been about a season ago, we had a qualifying where all of the drivers were in a second of each other, and that was I tell you, that was a terrifying first few laps. So yeah, he's on his lap. He's looking pretty good. Track extending. Ooh, got a bit Larry on the outside there. He didn't quite get all the way to the outside of that corner. That's going to cost him a few tenths there. So we come into the final sector here. Just an Aston Martin sat in front of him, getting onto his lap. Yeah, a little bit of dirty air. Hopefully it doesn't affect him too much as he comes around the final turn, keeps it within track limits, and we will see an 18.5.
That is surprising because, and the game could have been lying to me, but he did go fastest in the first sector. So if that was the case, there's obviously going to be a lot of time, and he might have been held up even more than we expected by that Aston Martin of Krabby Patty going through the final couple of corners. Here is Huis Lamilton now, trying to set his first flying lap of the session, down in 18th with no time on the board. With a name like that, you'd expect them to be challenging towards the front, but I believe this is the first we have seen of Mr. Huis. So have to see how it goes. Got a yellow flag, and I think we may have a car facing the wrong way on the exit of turn 4. It's a blue car on the minimap. I think it might be one of the Williams cars, potentially just getting out of the way because they are both on an out lap. Yes, it is Joe going slowly, getting out of people's way. I think it's 9 minutes of the session to go as we get ready for the second flying lap. So it'll be interesting to see what strategies people go for, whether they choose to save a set of soft compound tyres for the race, because tyre wear is pretty high around this track, especially in the middle sector with the lateral load you're putting on those front tyres in particular. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Strategy is going to be key for the race, though.
Quite often you'll see most of the races that I have commentated on, it generally goes, you either start on the soft, end on the medium, or start on the soft, end on the hard. It will be interesting to see how many of our drivers start on the harder end of the compound of tyres, because that opens them up to pitting opposite some of the other drivers, maybe getting an undercut, or maybe just going further and banking on there being a safety car or even a red flag, which I believe is a new feature in this game, which
yes,
I've sorely missed, honestly. There's been multiple races before. There was a race in Australia a few seasons ago where we had what seemed like the infinite safety car. It went on for 10, 12 laps because, I don't know, maybe the on-track stewards were feeling a bit tired or something. But red flags, it introduces a bit of change. Have you experienced any of the red flags? As of yet.
I don't believe we've had any on the game in the BUSR. There have been a few issues with red flags in the game since it's released, and Cody's and EA still failing to actually make their main feature for the new game work properly, so props to them for that. We're on board with Joe, though, on that second flying lap. Still some yellow flags being put out. He gets stuck on the outside curb there. That is that lap gone, and that is that set of tyres probably ruined by that little mistake there. That was It can bite you, can't it, this track? He just got a little bit too wide, trying to carry as much speed as possible, got caught on the curb and got dragged out as Matty Mumu, as Joe makes a mistake, his teammate, goes into provisional pole with a 15.0. We've got a Mercedes going very slowly here of GMT. I'm not sure where this is. I think this is in the final sector, coming up to the corner where...
Yeah, I don't know what's happening here.
What? We've got a McLaren behind them as well. This is very interesting viewing. Is
he out of fuel? He's out of fuel, I think.
Maybe. I don't know why the McLaren would just be sat pushing him around, though, unless there's some kind of a funny business going on in the voice chat that we haven't been able to hear.
Look, I'm at a loss of words.
It seems all right now. This is
coming in.
Well, I've never seen anything like this before, so this is a first for me.
Yeah, he's got.
I feel like he's on.
Yeah, he's full throttle and he's not increasing in speed. That was very strange.
Interesting antics.
But as you said before, we saw Joe going off there. He just dipped his tyre over the curb into the grass, braked, and the car just went straight on. And this is one of the more, I'd say, traditional tracks in Formula 1 where your runoff is gravel and grass. It's not tarmac in some of the higher speed corner. Turn 4 has all of the tarmac in the world on the outside. But once you get into that second sector, it's fairly unforgiving, especially for cars this fast and this wide. You dip your tyre onto that grass and, goodbye to whatever lap you were on, or during the race, whatever position you were hoping to keep. It is a fairly unforgiving circuit.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you get with these short tracks. I know we spoke about earlier it being very close with these short kind of circuits, but you also get the unpredictability because they traditionally are pretty difficult circuits. So yeah, it can really, really catch you out places like this with all these fast corners, the technical middle sector as well. Very difficult part of the circuit. Just running through a few improvements that some drivers have made. Alpha's joined the 1 minute 15.8 club in the McLaren up into 7th place. His teammate Tom Hug jumping into the top 10 as well, improving to a 16.1. Further down, or further up in fact, is GMT in the Mercedes, who we saw earlier with that interesting bit of fuel management, I feel it might have been. Improved up into 9th, and then Lewis Hamilton not quite on par with Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately, down in 14th with a 16.6. As we get ready for the final runs, SJ in the Ferrari is on what is presumably going to be his final lap of the session. We'll have to see if he can move off what would technically be the back row, because we've only got an odd number of cars. 18th at the moment, a second down on his teammate Alex Louch, which is not where you want to be. They say in Formula One, the person you want to compare yourself most to is your teammate. Found half a second on this lap so far. Should catapult him up a couple of places if he can find the improvements in the third sector as well, but not going to be troubling the top 10 at this stage.
I mean, we saw him on his previous lap. He didn't quite track extend in a few of these corners. He isn't here as well, but he does gain the position on Nat the Cat 2005, a 17.7. So a decent amount of improvement. I can't imagine he'll be too upset with that, but that will result in him for starting the race toward the back of the grid. I mean, toward the back of the grid tends to not be a bad place from experiences that I've had in esports, because that allows the people in front of you to make mistakes racing people too hard, and you can gain easy positions on the start. So look, it's all to play for still. Even starting 13th, 14th, 15th, you're still within a shout of getting that top 5, top 10 finish. So we'll see now. Ice coming into the track, sector. Doesn't quite look like it may be.
I can't believe he hasn't been invalidated there, to be honest.
It's very difficult to tell on track limits on some of these. I believe it is to the white line now in the F1 games, whereas before they were, it was corner by corner, and you just kind of had to feel it out as he goes fifth fastest up into the 0.8s, quite literally.
No, precisely on the dot.
And that bumps him up to 5th position as we see GMT. Is that him starting
a lap?
Yep.
This is going to get very busy because we've got a few drivers out of sync here. We've got some people setting their final laps now. We've got a lot of the top runners coming out of the pits very late. They're going to have to get a move on if they're going to get round in time, because they want to leave a good amount of track space to the cars in front. Like we said earlier, I think people are only going for 2 flying laps in this session. We haven't seen Cameron Searle or Jaraki since the very beginning of the session. Assassin in the other Mercedes getting ready to start his final flying lap down in 13th. You expect Assassin maybe to be a little bit further up than that, but we'll have to see if he can find the improvements on this final flying lap. You can see all the yellow flags being thrown for people trying to get out of the way. Just over a minute to go in the session. Matti Mumu has the provisional pole time at the moment, just over a 10th clear of Joe. Dazen and Geek will be looking to make some inroads on that as well. As AD improves up into the top 10, finds a third of a second. As SJ is retired, I think that might be in the pits actually, as I calm my excitement because I thought we had a crash somewhere on the circuit as we wait for our leading contenders to start their final laps.
It is complete pandemonium in that last sector, as we see. And if you look on the map at the bottom right there, we see the Mercedes getting past 3 cars in the final sector. So pandemonium as per usual at the end of qualifying. Drivers starting their laps, finishing their laps. It's a complete mess as we see Wooly Bobs come into the final sector looking to improve on 11th position. I believe he's starting his lap as well. I'm completely losing track of what on earth is going on. It's too many cars on sync.
The Red Bull of Dazen could be in a lot of trouble here. Only 15 seconds to go. I think coming around the final couple of corners now might not actually get to start a final flying lap, which could be crucial because going to be one of the contenders for pole position. It's down to 8 seconds. I think he might be coming up to the line now. Here we go. Yes, timed it to perfection. Geek is 2/10 up. This is going to be the first of the leading contenders to set a flying lap. Where does Geek go? He doesn't improve. Oh no, he does improve, but doesn't improve his position. Stays behind teammate Dazen. It'll be 4th at best for Geek, which is going to be a disappointment considering the pace he's shown in recent races. Cameron Searle looking to improve as well. Jaraki up to the line, finds not a lot of time at all and only moves up ahead of Cameron Searle, who can improve on this lap. Alpha up into 5th place, gets out of the 1:15.8 club, does a 1:15.7 into the top 5 for the McLaren driver.
Ooh, it's getting squeaky bum time here for our drivers, as we see Alex Louch going very, very slowly across the line. Not sure what happened through the final turn there.
Joe's boxed.
As Matti Mumu goes 14.8.
Wow.
That
is fast.
Yeah, I mean, I looked prior to this race at the times that we'd be expecting to be seeing, World record on console a few months ago was a 0.6. So that is ridiculous as a lap time, a 0.8 coming up to the line. There's Bluefire, goes ahead of Nat into the 17s, a significant improvement for him as Dason comes across the line, can't improve, stays third. Can't imagine he'll be too upset beating his teammate. Tom Hug goes 12th, and I believe that is all of our drivers.
Yeah, we just saw it at the very end. Joe coming into the pits, he had actually invalidated his lap time, so made a mess of it, came back to the pits, and it didn't cost him any positions in the end, stayed on the front row. But it is Matimumu who takes pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix. We will bring you that in just a moment. However, in this little interlude we are going to have a little look at what special effects does to support the gaming industry. And we're going to see what they do to support people in that field.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
A fantastic cause, I think you can agree, and here at the BUSR we are very proud to be partnered with Special Effect. Moving back to our racing action though, and we've got a bit of a Noah's Ark situation at the front of the field. 2 Williams on the front row, Matimumu and Joe, and then the 2 Red Bulls behind them. 4 cars separated by 4/10 of a second in the end, because Matimumu lowered the bar extraordinarily at the end by getting very close to that world record time that you said about earlier. Could be a 4-way scrap for victory, which would be very exciting.
Oh, it's look, I'm not gonna commentator's curse. I'm not gonna do anything, but this is going to be a very interesting first few laps here, because all of those drivers have what it takes to be taking the lead position out of the first lap, and
Absolutely.
It's entirely dependent on who gets the good start. Do you defend the inside? Are you just going to take it conservatively for the first few laps? What goes through these drivers' heads, we'll be finding out very quickly, because, I mean, it's Hungaroring. As we've alluded to many a time, it is Monaco without the barriers. And I think they're going to be seeing the without the barriers part a bit more than the Monaco part. And look, if we get a few drivers on the grass and the gravel, look, this could shift things up very quickly.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a magnet for first quarter collisions, the Hungarian Grand Prix in real life. We saw 2021 when Valtteri Bottas went bowling in real life. It is a very interesting one. We're getting ready, though, to start the Grand Prix. 5 lights, clutches dropped, and we are away. Matimumu and Joe leading us away down into turn 1. I think it's a good start for Dazen from 3rd place behind, but it is Matimumu still leading the way. Geek's not had a very good start from 4th place. It's Dazen going around the outside of Joe. Can he make up that position? Round the outside into turn 1. I think he has done. On the exit, though, Joe trying to fight back for 2nd place. Further down, Alpha, bad start, losing a couple of places off the line. Joe's managed to hold on to 2nd. I think there was a little bit of debris flying around there as Geek loses out to Cameron Searle. Contact further back, I think, with SJ going wide, but it's Matimumu holding on to the lead. 5 cars wide almost going through turn 2 there, but it's the 2 Williams that hold on to 1st and 2nd. Dazen all over the back of Joe, though, as we flick it through turn 4 and coming up towards the middle sector.
That was a very odd start there, as we saw GMT trying to go around the outside of the 2 Haas's and just getting tagged, I believe.
Oh, Matimumu was all over the place there and rejoined very dangerously into the path of his teammate. I'd be amazed if both Williams are undamaged. Matimumu has left the session, so maybe that was some kind of disconnect. I hope both of them are undamaged, because that was crazy. If we can see any cosmetic damage there for Joe, no, we can't. But that is Matimumu for the 2nd race running, disconnecting and losing places As a result, it's Joe who now leads the way. Look at this fighting further down the field. Battle between Nat Decat and Bluefire at the back. Matty Mumu does rejoin the session. You can see the battles going on through the penultimate corner. That's a brilliant move around the outside for Wooly on GMT, as we've got the other Haas coming into the pits of ice. Must have picked up some damage. GMT in the pits as well, as is Krabby Patty. Few cars picking up damage on that opening lap. We've got a car around in the background as well. I think it might have been an Alfa Romeo facing the wrong way. Was it? Yes, it was. Nat Decat in the Alfa Romeo with no front wing, and that is going to be a very long lap for him with no front wing.
It was like, as you're saying, it is complete chaos. We saw GMT coming into the pit lane. I imagine broken front wing. Krabby Patty the same again. Not sure what happened to Ice. I believe he was the driver who made contact with GMT on the opening lap. So, you know, they're early pit stop. They're going to be using these tyres for longer than they want to, as we see. Ooh. Is that Alex? That is Alex Louch taking a big spin on the inside there. Not horrific incident for him there.
Yeah, a bit unlucky for him there. He's side by side with his teammate, got squeezed off a little bit going through turn 4 and then rejoining straight into the path of one of the Aston Martins. Not ideal for him, dropping back into 16th. Got a pretty decent start, I think. Made up quite a few places, but now drops back down to his grid position. Joe leading the way, though, from Days and Cameron Searle, crucially getting ahead of Geek, who, with Matty Mumu's incident and disconnect, is a net zero gain and loss for Geek, staying in 4th place. Jareki up 3, really good start for him in the Alfa Romeo. Alfa holding on to 6th. Then comes AD, Tom Hug, Matty Mumu dropping down to 9th, and Wooly Blobs in the Haas up into 10th place. Very good start as well for SJ. We saw him batting with his teammate earlier. Found 6 places on the opening lap, up into 11th, just outside the top 10.
Hopefully now the race will settle down a little bit. I'm saying that now. The front 5 have spaced out fairly evenly, but the 5 cars behind still nose to tail. We've got a little bit of a train there, led by Matty Mumu, of course, who... It was very unfortunate. We saw he messed up the chicane and then disconnected immediately. I'm not entirely sure what that was about, but I'm glad that he's back, and he's got a little bit of work to do. Battle through these cars ahead of him. I mean, you need to have a significant delta on the cars ahead to be able to overtake efficiently here, because of just how narrow it is. You're not overtaking. I'm going to say this now, and this will probably be wrong in the future, but you're not overtaking Sector 2. It is very much too narrow, and you put your car side by side in there, you're going to lose so much time to the car ahead of this battle that it's just not worth doing. So we see Matty Mumu now, he's gaining significantly as DRS, I believe, has been enabled for a couple of laps. I'm paying attention, I promise, as he speeds past AD here, and AD looking to try and maintain the position, but just messes it up on the outside there.
Yeah, tried to fight around the outside, but eventually had to concede defeat to the much faster Williams on the quicker tyres as well. We could see, just for a moment there, the tyre strategies of a lot of drivers. Some people going on softs, which is a brave call early on. The soft tyres do really melt around this track. We've got a really nice battle here between the Aston Martin of Lewis Hamilton as SJ picks up the first corner-cutting penalty of the race. These two still side by side, going up into turn 4. Assassin getting all over the curb, and now the Aston Martin runs wide. They're still side by side. It's been a whole lap almost side by side between these two. You can see it on the Delta earlier, coming up into the chicane. Said no overtaking in the middle sector. Are we going to prove you wrong straight away? It is Assassin who holds on to 12th place ahead of Lewis Hamilton, the fake Mercedes driver in the Aston Martin. As he has a little look going down into turn 9, but thinks better of it. Out in front, we saw on the previous lap though, Dazen setting the fastest lap, just half a second behind Joe. We could see maybe a little bit of a squabble for the lead as our top 5, like you said, beginning to pull away from Alpha, who's on the hard compound tyres.
It is getting very close, I think, also between Cameron and Dason here. They are... I mean, look, there's so much going on that my brain is kind of slowing down to a crawl. But from what I can see here with Tom Hug, he's not slowing down to a crawl at all.
No.
Oh, this is awful commentary for me. I do apologise. It's Tom Hug makes the move on AD here. Now it's the McLaren's nose to tail, and this is cracking racing. Like you don't get to see this every day, but this is some, and it's respectful as well. I don't think we've seen anyone what's the word I'm looking for? Torpedo is the word I'm
No.
looking for. Daniel Kivat special right there. But as we were coming into the chicane earlier on with the Mercedes, I was as we see Natcat retiring from the session. I think he's had enough. I don't know what's happened there. Spam coming into the pit lane by the looks of it. As I was saying before, the Mercedes and the Aston Martin there, they could have very easily gone side by side into that chicane if they really wanted to. But I think they understood this race is a lot longer than 6 laps in, so decided to give up the position and continue safely, as there's some funny yellow flags going on here.
Yeah, I think it's the game getting confused by the Alfa Romeo retiring in the pits. Hopefully they don't rejoin the track and then stop on the pit exit. We've still got more batting going on. We saw on the previous lap the McLarens gaining and losing places. Matthew getting past Alpha, and then Tom Hug, the other McLaren, getting past 80. This is a really nice battle from Wooly Blobso. 80 starting to fall through the field a little bit, made a really good start, gaining some places. This is really good racing. The Haas on the soft compact tyres. Is there contact? There is a bit of contact as 80 goes over the curbs on the outside, and Wooly Blobs makes a little bit of contact on the inside, manages to save it, and will stay in 10th place, but I think it's only a matter of time before he gets past the struggling Alpha Tauri in front. Matti Mumu 2.5 seconds off the leading quartet now, as Jareki has lost a little bit of time. Now 3 seconds behind Geek. Matti Mumu will be looking to close that gap pretty quickly. And the two McLarens, we're hoping they get towed along nicely by the Williams.
What I'm also noticing here is our front three. Last time that we were on them, it was about 6-7 tenths between them. They're starting to compress up now. Cameron Searle within 5 tenths. Dason getting up to the 3-tenth gap now, so he may be looking for an overtake here. Is he going to try a cheeky little dive on the inside of turn 1? Thinks better of it, as does Cameron. So they stick close, second DRS zone here just to keep them within range. And it looks like they're going to hold station for the time being. So we see
McLaren swapping places.
Ooh.
Yeah, didn't quite catch it on the entry to turn 1, but it is Tom Hug getting past Alpha. Alpha made a good start. No, he didn't actually. He lost a couple of places. Got them back with the various escapades of the drivers in front, but now Tom Hug gets past his teammate. And after starting, I think he was down in maybe P11 or P12, he's done really well to get up into 7th place. It's been a good opening 5th of the race for Tom Hug, and can try and set about catching Jareki, who looks to be struggling a little bit. I believe Jareki is on the soft compound tyres, as I think that was SJ and Huis Lamilton battling into turn 4. See some really good racing, like you said. Hard compound tyres versus soft tyres. The soft tyres are going to start to feel very, very average at this point, and I would imagine that the Aston Martin is going to be getting past the Ferrari any time now. Assassin, who was battling with Lamilton before, has already got past SJ, so it seems like it is only going to be a matter of time before they swap places. But there is a big gap between 10th and 11th at the moment. Assassin nearly 7 seconds behind the top 10. Is it a look down the inside for Lamilton? God, that's going to be so annoying for the rest of this race. Thinks better of it and sits behind, but I think it's going to be like candy from a baby down into turn 1, because he's got a lot more pace than the Ferrari.
Speaking of turn 1, Matti Mumu making his way past Jareki and now into the top 5, as Jareki had a little bit of a look there, but cannot quite get the move done. The inside line there, very strong, as we see again Huis Lamilton making the move this time. And SJ just getting a bit leery. The soft compound tyres, as you say, falling off the cliff. The lead battle now within 2 tenths between Dason and Joe, as little mistake by the looks of it on the timing there. It's dropped down to 6 tenths, and that's put Cameron Searle right in the firing line. Geek hanging on as SJ gets another 3-second penalty. That is now 6 seconds for our driver here. Very unfortunate, as it's difficult to manage warnings in this game, especially because you're going so fast everywhere that, you know, once you start understeering, you know, it's too late to make the correction, and you've gotten your warning.
Yeah, I think the corners we're going to be looking at in particular are going to be turn 4, the fast left-hander that we've spoken about a lot so far over the previous 9 laps and the qualifying session. Then in the middle sector, turn 11 especially is going to be difficult with that really fast right-hander that brings you into the final sector. The gap's very close out in front, but I think Dazen is pretty happy at the moment just to sit behind Joe and conserve some tyres, conserve some fuel, because they're actually pulling away from Matimuma a little bit. The gap's now 6 seconds. Matimuma maybe doesn't have the race pace to match the qualifying performance we saw earlier, but there is still a long way to go. Not even a third of the way through this race. Other corners that people need to be aware of, probably turn 9, which we're about to come up to now. You'll see coming up to turn 8, then this turn 9 corner. It's so tight on the exit with the curb. You've got to be very careful that you don't just wander off. A lazy track limits warning it would be, but everyone keeping it in the white lines very nicely as they as this quartet swoop through the middle sector. And to finish the lap, I wonder if Dazen is going to think about a move shortly. I know he said he's pretty happy to sit behind, but if Matimumi does start catching these guys, I think some of them will be keen to get rid of the Williams in front and start putting their pace on show. Joe goes very wide there, actually, and this might open up an opportunity for Dazen down into turn 1. The Williams moves to the right to go defensive. Dazen with the DRS open, trying to go around the outside. Is he going to pull it off? Absolutely beautifully done. No answer really for Joe. Can he try and come back on the outside? No. Move done, and we have a change of the lead. It is Dazen in the Red Bull up into first place. Joe with that mistake coming out of the final corner, just going way too wide, got a horrible run, losing that place. And I think Cameron Searle's thinking about a move as well, trying to get second place, but can't quite get that done. Tried to squeeze up the inside. He's going to sit behind for the time being. But yeah, like we were saying, easy to make mistakes. We've just seen one from our race leader.
As we see SJ coming into the pits there, serving his 6-second penalty. Like you were saying before, this track invites penalties, and I think what definitely doesn't help our drivers is how wide the exit curves are here. You can get very easily lured into a false sense of security with just how wide you can take the corners, and proving me right, Lewis Hamilton, 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. You can run very wide here and still be on a grippy part of the circuit. But, you know, Formula One, you've got to keep yourself within that white line, and, you know, some of our drivers just finding it very difficult too. So we see Tom Hug, Alpha here, stuck behind Jaraki for the time being. I'd say Tom Hug, if he could get this corner right, he is within DRS range for an overtake. So we see a yellow flag. Yeah, is that Wooly?
Yeah, it is Woody Blobs who's now going to enter the pits. I think Tom Hug may have made a move up the inside of Jaraki into turn 1. You can see it on the timing screens. They do swap places. Jaraki's going to try and hold it, I believe, around the outside. Yes, turns to the inside for turn 2. Can the soft tyre runner of the Alfa Romeo hold off the medium tyre runner in the McLaren? They go very close through turn 2 and into turn 3. Flick it right, and Tom Hug has got that position one and done. Or has he? Is Jaraki going to think about a move into turn 4? No. And it is one McLaren past the Alfa Romeo. Will the second one follow suit as Jaraki's really starting to struggle on those soft tyres?
Yeah, the soft tyres are completely going off the cliff. This is the pit window now for the soft tyre runners. So they need to get in soon, because all of the soft tyre runners that have come in before them will be starting to set lap times much faster than what they're able to do on these dead tyres. And there's going to be, I think, a couple of undercuts here with the pit cycle when we come up to the medium tyre runners as well.
Something to bring to people's attention. We have lost Geek from our leading battle. I don't know if he's made a mistake, but he's now 2.2 seconds behind Cameron Searle. I think he may have had a little blunder somewhere. Going out of the final corner, I think Joe's going to try and take the lead back from Dazen around the outside, trying to replicate the move that Dazen pulled him in just a few laps ago. They stay side by side on the exit. Nothing to split them as they come up towards turn 2, but it's actually Joe who gets a really good run around the outside and takes that position. The lead changes hands. Once again, it is Joe from Dazen from Cameron Searle. As Alpha gets past Jaraki falling through the field, those soft tyres, he's got to be thinking about getting rid of them in the next couple of laps because, losing a lot of track position.
It is very powerful, that second DRS zone, because the detection zone is just as you come into the final turn, and that keeps your DRS for both of those straights. So if you get the move half done through turn 1, you have such an advantage on the driver ahead of you. So we see, another very, very bizarre down the straight there, but Assassin getting ahead. Getting ahead there. And Krabby Patty, I'm not sure he'll be too happy about how close they got there, as we saw Lewis Hamilton getting another 3-second penalty. Very easy to do here. And
SJ picking
SJ,
up another one. That's 9 seconds now after 13 laps. Really struggling at the moment.
I used to keep track of this kind of stuff here. It was something that I'd note down every time. I remember we had it would have been a COTA race, and I think all but one driver had a penalty, and the average penalty for all of the drivers was somewhere between 6 and 9 seconds. It got very ridiculous.
Wow, that's like a real life Austrian Grand Prix with everyone getting penalties. We can see here the McLarens. I think Alpha just starting to regain the advantage he had earlier on, because the medium tyres will be starting to go off a little bit as we are on lap 13. Now the hard tyres will be good for another maybe even 10 laps at this stage to try and get you towards lap 20, maybe 22 or 23. So we might see maybe some team orders in play here if Alpha is considerably quicker than Tom Hug. 80 behind has got past Jarek, who has finally got rid of those soft compound tyres. It'll be interesting to see what tyres he went on to. I would expect the hard tyres, because there's no way the mediums will be able to do a further 22 laps. Still Joe from Days and from Cameron Searle out in front. They've been nose to tail for the majority of this race. Geek dropping back. But we've got Jarek trying to make up some places. I think he's on the medium compound tyres. That is a lovely move. That is fresh rubber compared to old rubber for you, as he gets past Lewis Lamilton up into 9th place and trying to use the advantage of this undercut to get some positions back on 80 and the 2 McLarens.
Yeah, I think Lewis understood there that they're on different strategies. It's not worth risking it into that turn, especially with how narrow the exits are there. So just letting him by, I think that's the level-headed move to make there. As we see, still nose to tail, they're down to 2 tenths now. This is, one mistake from these drivers, and you'll be losing all of the positions that you have here. So this is very, very tenuous. Geek still within range, so he's hoping that these drivers make a mistake up ahead, or at the very least start battling so he could get right back in the thick of things. Matti Mumu as well, gaining. I'm not sure he's gaining. I think he's holding station. Like, if you add Geek's gap to Matti Mumu, it's still 5.8, 5.9, which is what we saw earlier on once he got past the Tom Hug little group there. As Woolly Blobs gets a 3-second time penalty. I thought Matti Mumu was going in there.
Yeah, all of these guys are on the medium tyres, so it'll be interesting to see who blinks first. Who's going to be the one to go for the undercut? Obviously, you do not want to come out in traffic because of how difficult it is to overtake. This is Dazen trying to get the lead back, going up the inside, but Joe's going to hold it around the outside. I think he's going to hold on to this, is he? Dazen's going to try and send it around the outside of turn 2. Joe's got the better line, but he's going to have to leave in space on the outside. Dazen keeps his foot in there, keeps his nose in there. Does Joe keep on the track? Yes, he does, just about. They're still side by side going up into turn 4. It's actually Cameron Searle's going to try and go around the outside of turn 4. This is ambitious. He's pushed off the road. This is great racing between all 3 of them. They're so close together, you could put a blanket over them. Joe's still trying to hold on to that place. Is he going to try and move down into the chicane? We'll have to see what happens. Thinks better of it. Joe losing 2 places there. This is going to invite Geek to try and close to the back of this trio as well. Dazen takes the lead back. Cameron Searle up into 2nd. Joe loses 2 places. And
like I said, they're battling fiercely there, and that's invited Geek a whole 6 tenths up to the back of this pack. Joe, I can't imagine, is going to let that go unanswered, as we see Ice and Alex Louch switching positions here into turn 1. It's very close at the front here as they come back onto the front stretches. Joe decides that this is his opportunity to get in the pit lane. He wants to get that undercut done now. Do you reckon Matti Mumu is going to come in? No. So he's going to be the first of our lead runners to come in and switch onto, I assume, the hard tyre here.
Going to have to keep an eye on his progress as well as where he comes out, because there is an AlphaTauri coming down the straight. It might be quite close on pit exit between Joe and AD. It'll be disastrous if he comes out behind the AlphaTauri. He does come out behind, but I think there is enough of a gap. No, you could see the AlphaTauri going through turn 1 there. Joe's come out in a bit of traffic. This is going to be music to the ears of Dazen and Cameron Searle. If they can put their foot down, maybe try and overcut to hold on to the advantage that they gained on the previous lap. Geek and Matti Mumu will be thinking about making a stop as well. But yeah, it is Joe that's first to blink. We'll see if this pays off, but this is not going to be ideal for him as Alpha picks up a first penalty of the race, 3 seconds for track limits.
So Joe coming out behind AD here. It's not. I don't think it's as bad as it seems if he can dispatch of him quickly, because if he can make the move in. Well, he's now in sector 2 and he's still stuck behind. If he can at least match the pace of the leaders, it's getting a bit tenuous here. As I think he forced him off the track there. I'm not sure if there was contact, but Joe has made the move pass as we see 3 of our lead runners pit. That's Cameron Dayson and Matty Mumu all in the pit lane. Joe now coming onto the final turn. Will he be able to get the undercut done? I'm not sure. He's coming over the start line now as our drivers come off the pit limiter. It's going to be close.
He's ahead of them.
He's ahead. He's ahead of
he's
them.
Right into the path of Joe. Round the outside he goes, and he's got the net lead of the race back. Geek out in front has been left out to dry, but that works out just about for Joe. Cameron Searle commits down the inside of the Red Bull of Dazen. They make contact going through turn 2. They're still side by side. Dazen's going to probably shove him out wide. He does. Cameron Searle is given the cold shoulder by the sister car there as they come out in front of AD. Crucially, Geek out in front is not in a great spot. Matty Mumu coming in as well, but he's still 5.5 seconds behind this group. Joe getting his elbows out. Cameron Searle trying to get his elbows out, but Dazen holding on to provisional second place for the time being, although Cameron Searle looking very racy behind on those brand new hard tyres.
Well, so now I'm expecting to see Geek taking to the pit lane, and I believe he does. So 2 laps extra compared to Joe here. Joe getting his tyres warmed up and able to make that move onto Dason. But crucially, because he had to battle to get that position, I don't think he's got the move on Joe. Geek, sorry, but I'm wrong. I'm horrifically wrong, as all 3 of the leaders go by, and AD as well, getting ahead, potentially.
Close. Very, very close. I'd be surprised if AD fights this. It's just going to lose him a little bit of time, but if he can get the track position, that would be ideal for him. In fact, he's going to sit on the inside. He's still going to fight it going into turn 2. Fair play, but Geek with those fresh tyres much quicker. You can see how much Matty Mumu's gained just by a 1-lap undercut on Geek. He's right on the back of him now with an AlphaTauri in between, admittedly, but he has managed to close up. Geek is now 4.5 seconds behind Cameron Searle. This has not worked out for him, and this might mean that it's going to be a battle between 3 cars rather than 5, as we see Alex Louch in the pits there. I think Matty Mumu did make a move up the inside into the chicane on AD to take 5th place, as Alex Louch gets a penalty for speeding in the pits. That is not going to be ideal for his race. Matty Mumu is going to set his sights on Geek here. He's still waiting for his tyres to get up to temperature. Matty Mumu looking quick behind him. Will he try and get past him into turn 1? I think they've got to work together here. They've got to try and drag each other towards the top 3, because 5-second gap, that is significant at this stage.
And what I'm surprised to see, and I'm not sure if this is an odd thing to say, is Dason takes the fastest lap, trading that off, I believe, the Williams there. I'm interested that there's been no safety car or any kind of incident beyond our first lap. I'm being told over the earpiece here not to jinx it, but screw it. I'm jinxing it. It's interesting that we've had such, well, other than the penalties, obviously, such, everyone keeping it to the tarmac. So good on our drivers here, and I believe this is going to continue through the rest of the race.
Yeah, we've had a pretty clean first 50% of the race. Still just under half it to go. We saw into turn 1 Matty Mumu making light work of Geek, as we predicted, because Geek was trying to get his tyres up to temperature. Matty Mumu already in the best operating window, getting that place. We've got a battle going on between Assassin and SJ. Assassin seems to be in the wars quite a lot in this race, trying to hold on to 12th place, keeps it, and SJ will have to sit behind going up into that tricky middle sector. And he's going to have to hold on for now, unless we see a mistake from Assassin. I thought he was going a bit deep into turn 4, but no, it is still 12th place for the Mercedes. SJ in 13th, sorry.
Yeah, little bump of wheels there, but nothing too disrespectful. Just a couple of drivers enjoying a nice corner and a little bit of danger there with the potential overtake.
SJ was very wide there again. He's got to be careful he doesn't get too many track limits penalties. He gets disqualified, as 80 in the AlphaTauri finally comes into the pits to get rid of those hard compound tyres. Jaricky with the massive undercut, actually, has found himself 7 seconds ahead of the McLaren pair. That's worked out nicely. I would imagine, though, because he put the mediums on, he's going to have to stop again. So Jaricky going with an alternate strategy. We'll have to see if that works out for him.
I believe some of that may come down to penalties being served. I'm not sure. Can 3 seconds penalties be served in the pit lane?
They cannot.
Ooh. So this is just pure pace then from Jaricky. He's really stretching out his getting a comfortable lead into 6th, but more crucially, he's only 3 seconds off Geek. So still on for 5th place there. Further up the order, obviously our top 3 haven't really strayed from this DRS train that they're currently in. Matti Mumu, of course, 5.3 back. That's still better than when he was in the pit before he came into the pit lane there. That's a 6/10 improvement, but considering how many laps are left in this race, he's going to need to get a move on to have any consideration of being in the top 3.
Yeah, he is slowly catching them, but he's definitely got to try and up the pace. Maybe use some DRS from some lapped cars that are getting in the way to try and catapult him forward. Our leaders separated by 0.8 of a second, all 3 of them. Look at how close they are together. It feels a little bit like a boxing match, this first 20 laps we've had. Just, Dazen throwing punches out there, Joe responding with some jabs, Cameron Sell coming in with what almost felt like a massive uppercut as he tried to get past Dazen on the outlap. But yeah, these top 3, I think they're going to be our contenders unless we have some kind of safety car which brings Matamu and Geek back into contention, as we see a load of race control time penalties flying in. SJ for speeding in the pit lane. I think Assassin got a 3-second one for corner cutting as well.
That's interesting because that's the second time SJ has been in the pits as well. So I'm not sure if he's taken some front wing damage or something there, but yeah, and this is something that we can't see, which could play into the last few laps of this race. We don't know how many warnings our lead group have. So I don't know if they're trying to play it safe in the first few stages, make sure that they can stack up those warnings for later in the race. But we have no idea on how close they all are to 3-second penalties. It could be a case that we come into the last couple of laps and all 3, all 4, all 5 of them get a 3-second penalty. It's going to be interesting to see how clean they can keep it, considering how hard they are battling each other.
Yeah, and Joe in the previous 2 races has lost positions on the line because he's picked up a 3-second penalty earlier in the race. McLaren's going into battle through turn 1. Alpha and Tom Hug swapping places, are they? Tom Hug trying to go on the outside, I believe. Alpha on the inside. Look at this battling between the 2 papaya cars as they fly through turn 2. It is Alpha who holds on to 7th place for the time being on the medium tyres compared to the hards of Tom Hug. No way he's going to try down the inside into turn 4. No, I don't think Zach Brown would have been particularly pleased if he saw that in real life. It is Alpha in 7th, Tom Hug in 8th. They've got a big gap to the Haas of Woolley behind, so not going to be any concerns for the cars behind. They've got to try and catch Jaricky, who I still think is going to be making an extra stop. More racing further back into turn 1. It's Lewis Lamilton getting past Ice, is he, down into turn 1? The Haas on the hard tyres, so might be struggling a little bit. We've got a yellow flag. I'm not sure who it is for. It is in the final corner. I think it's cleared now, so maybe somebody just having a little bit of an oversteer and going wide. But going back to the track limits thing you were talking about, we have seen all 3 cars going over track limits at various stages in this race, mostly through the battling, because they have been a little bit aggressive with each other, but it's all fair at the end of the day between the 3 out in front. It's just going to be if they manage to back off enough that they didn't get the warning for it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens later on. This race could all change out in front, and Matti Mumu might end up being brought back into it because he's got the gap under 5 seconds. The progress isn't quite enough at this stage, but this is Matti Mumu we're talking about. Former 2-time champion as Dazen gets very close to the back of Joe. That might leave him open to attack from Cameron Sell. Coming out of the chicane, he turns in. Cameron Sell keeps his nose up the inside, but Dazen is going to hold on for that for the time being. Is he? Cameron Sell still looking very racy in this season. He's gained a lot of confidence, I think, from the second place in the opening race and then the win last time out. Sits behind for now. Dazen's got to make sure he doesn't lose DRS. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. GMT is out of the race, and there is the safety car, ladies and gentlemen. And I think our leading trio are definitely going to be into the pits for a new set of medium tyres. Yes, you can see them all filing into the pits. And yeah, that's also saved Jaraki's race as well. Can go on to his second set of medium tyres. That's worked out nicely for the Alfa Romeo. Brings Matimu and Geek back into it as well. We could have a 5-way scrap here.
As a DT comes in for AD, speeding under safety car. So everyone's going to come in like that. Basically, unless you've just pitted, everyone's going to come in for a new set of rubber. But what was interesting within that was when GMT went off. Just before we saw GMT go off, and unfortunately DNF there, I noticed that SJ was kind of within that mix, and I'm not sure that he was in control of his car at that point. I think that was the Sector 3 yellow flag that we saw earlier on. So there's a lot going on in this late stage of this race. Safety car coming out may put a spanner in the works for a few drivers. Anyone who started the race on hard tyres may get a significant advantage here, gain a few positions. But also all of these time penalties are going to come into play a lot stronger than they would have with the pack spaced out. Like, for example, Lewis Hamilton, that 9-second penalty, he's gone from potentially only dropping 3-4 positions to this is going to put him right at the back of the grid in terms of time penalty. So there's going to be a lot of aggressive moves, I think, once the safety car restart comes in.
Yeah, and that drive-through penalty we saw for AD, that's going to ruin what has been a really good race from him. Up in 7th at the moment, thanks to the two McLarens coming into the pit. Started on the hard tyres, went long, took the pain early, but I think he's going to drop all the way to last place when he has to take that drive-through when the safety car comes in towards the front. And I'm not sure how this happened. I don't know if it was a slow stop or if he got held. Cameron Searle has got ahead of Dazen in the pit stops.
Interesting. It may just be something along the lines of being able to. So the pit lane here is fairly wide as you come in. Maybe he just sent it on the outside in the pit lane. We did see a bit of that in the real life racing, the real life series. You saw Max Verstappen exiting the pit lane in qualifying, basically half on the grass, trying to get past people in the pit lane. So I reckon something similar to that may have happened, just squeezing his nose onto the pit line, trying to get around cars. So
yeah, I would be surprised if that was the case, but you never know. Someone might just go for it. I think
it's a bit cheeky.
He's lost a place there. No, he hasn't. I think just swapping accidentally with Jaraki. Interestingly to note, Joe is on the soft tyres. The two cars behind on mediums. Now, I'm not sure if those are brand new soft tyres for Joe or if they are used tyres. I would expect they're used, although the timing charts that we've got says they've only been on for one lap. But I think he used all 3 sets in qualifying, or at least
I'm not sure he did.
Did he not?
I think he was one of the 2 run drivers, or maybe if he did 3, I don't think he improved on his second lap out. So I think his second lap may have been on scrubbed tyres. So he may have this extra set to play with. We did see a few runners starting on the soft tyres, so that's, they're locked out from being able to use that for this restart. But looking down the order, it is mediums galore. Only Joe, Jaraki, Ice, and SJ on the soft tyres. Jaraki here has a real opportunity to get himself up into the podium positions here with the soft tyre. But
depends how well it lasts.
Yeah, tyre. It's looking like the safety car is staying out one more lap here, so this will be 9 laps to the end. Doing the math right here because the number includes the lap we're on. 8 laps, one of the 2. Look, answers on a postcard. But all of our drivers are now stacking up quite nicely, so this should be the final lap for the safety car.
Unfortunately, the big loser here is actually Alex Louch. You can see down at the bottom, I think he got lapped just before the safety car came out. Now finds himself stuck in that train. I don't know if he'll be allowed to overtake the safety car and the cars in front. We'll have to see, because everyone has now caught up to the snake. So this should be the last lap of safety car running we get. But yeah, Alex Louch, unfortunate to be caught up behind, because he's had some pretty decent pace at times. So would have been hoping to use the safety car to his advantage to move further up the field. Not been a good day for Ferrari, has it? 16th and 17th. It is, yeah.
Very unfortunate for the Ferrari camp here. The Aston Martin camp as well, both drivers with penalties. So it's looking fairly desolate here for some of our drivers. I mean, these penalties are just going to be absolutely wrecking the leaderboard as we come across to the final lap. So you gotta keep it clean. Gotta keep it clean, and unfortunately some of our drivers just unable to do that. As well as we saw AD with that drive-through, you can't serve the drive-through on the safety car, so he's going to be out in no man's land when he comes to serve that.
Disappointing for those drivers that do find themselves with penalties hanging over their heads. It is, though, I would expect safety car in this lap because everyone has caught the train, and I think we could be seeing a 6-way fight for the lead. Thank you, Race Control, for confirming it. Safety car in this lap. Joe on the soft tyres, Cameron, Days and Matty Geek on the mediums, and Jaraki, don't forget him, on the soft tyres as well. This could be a barnstorming finish here in Budapest.
I'm very, very much looking forward to this. So, Joe is maintaining pace. Dason looking very aggressive there on the outside. I wonder when he's going to go. He slows a little bit down, and there he goes into the final turn. We see everyone filing through. DRS will be off for this lap as Cameron goes very aggressive on the defense there on Dason. Manages to keep his car ahead. Looking down the order, we've got the Ferrari there, I believe, of Alex Louch, of course, lapped as a few cars go through on him, but everyone holding station for the time being. Oh, it's very, very close at the front end here. Joe managing to pull a little bit away as we see Assassin and Ice swapping positions. Ice getting the move done very cleanly there. And oh my gosh. Other than that though, very, very holding station here.
Yeah, Joe's going to have the advantage early on in this stint with those brand new soft compound tyres. Dazen chomping at the bit to try and get past Cameron Searle, and Matty Mumu now smells a chance at a race victory, which was looking very unlikely but a few laps ago. Jaraki and Geek have struggled to keep up with this leading four on the restart. Joe with 6/10 in hand, not being able to use the performance of the soft compound tyres as much as we were expecting. The two Hasses swap positions. Ice gets up ahead of Wooly into 10th place. AD is going to have to serve that drive-through penalty any time now, so it's going to be tumbling all the way to the back of the field. That will elevate the two McLarens up a place each, but it is Joe who leads the way with 7 laps to go. You can see the AlphaTauri of 80 is coming in to serve that drive-through. That is going to be a race ruiner, and what has been a very impressive afternoon so far for AD. Unfortunate, but that is racing at the end of the day. It is still the top 6 as we were, though. Joe from Cameron Searle, Days and Matty Mumu Geek, and Jaraki struggling to keep up.
Watch the cars coming through the first sector here. There is a monstrous snake back there with Alpha Tom, Ice, Wooly, and Assassin all lying astern at the minute. We see Tom Hug get a 3-second penalty. That was very egregious on the outside there, and that's given Ice the go-ahead to try and make a move. Can't quite get alongside for the chicane. Ice is looking very scary right now. He's made up several positions already, and look, he's got a mandate. I'm going to get past all these drivers, no matter what he's got to do. He also one of the very few drivers in that group with no penalties. So He currently is battling Jaraki. He's trying to get ahead to get that overtake from Jaraki, because currently Alpha and Tom are going to end up behind. I'm looking down the order here. I mean, SJ is going to end up behind. It's going to end up behind AD here at the end of this race. Like, it is very bizarre how this is all worked out.
Penalties proving crucial. Who would have thunk it? Tom Hug goes to the inside. Ooh. Ice dives down the inside, though. He wasn't able to defend it. Ice with a brilliant dummy almost to the inside. Gets the Haas up ahead of the McLaren, and now the other Haas is going to try and make a move down into turn 2. Tom Hug struggling to hold on to places here. Wooly goes down the inside. I think there was a little bit of wheel banging on the inside of turn 2. Will he hold it up the inside of 3? Yes, he does, but it is the Haas. That was a little bit lazy, actually, from Wooly just cutting across, and Tom Hug was still there. Nothing made of it, though, so far. Tom Hug losing places to both the Hasses. Ice making use of those soft compound tyres will set about chasing after Alpha. And potentially, like you said, Jaraki, who's struggling to keep up with our top 5. 7/10 the gap out in front. Dazen still all over the back of Cameron Searle, as that is another penalty for SJ. 15 seconds, and I think he had a 5-second penalty in there as well. So that's a total of 20 seconds worth of penalties in this race. Not ideal.
Interestingly, the group out in front, the top 5, I don't know if Geek quite got into DRS range there, but we'll see whether his wing opens or not. I don't think it did. So top 4 here now, all in. Well, look, five laps to go, man. This is going to get scary very quickly, I reckon. Joe, his tyres will be falling off toward the end of the stint. So it's about how well he can defend himself into turn 1. We saw that massive dummy coming out earlier from Ice. Was it Ice? It was Ice. It was, yes. It was Ice. And he's going to have to fend off all of the moves that Cameron will be doing. And Cameron has been very, very strong getting past drivers in this race. So, it's got to. I'm on tenterhooks right now, man. I'm looking forward to this.
It's been a really good 29 laps so far, and hopefully the final 6 are going to be as exciting. The cars behind Joe will all be hoping that he's burnt up those soft tyres, but I think Joe probably doing the smart thing. He knows he's difficult to pass in a straight line with the aero that everybody's running, the high wings. I think he's just going to be preserving those soft tyres. Doesn't want to melt them too early on, but at some point he is going to have to think about defending and strategically using his battery and using the tyres where he can to try and hold on to the lead of the race. Geek is not in DRS again. I think he's going to struggle to get back in DRS range unless we see this leading quartet battle. Dazen getting very close to the back of Joe. It's Cameron Searle, in fact, going down the inside into turn 1. Joe under pressure. He's been pushed to the outside, and Cameron Searle takes the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix for the first time. We've got a Ferrari off in the background in the final sector. That is not important at this stage. Joe having a look up the inside, still trying to hold it up the inside, but thinks better of it. Cameron Searle, for the first time, leads the Hungarian Grand Prix. Will Joe fight him back into turn 4? He thinks about it on the inside, has a little look as SJ retires. I think that's going to be... it's a safety car. Wow.
So SJ, from what I can tell, SJ span at the third to last turn, managed to rejoin. AD made his way past, and then seemed to spin out of the second to last turn and just retire on the spot. And I think that's what's caused the safety car to come out. Will everyone get stacked up in time for a restart? I'm not sure. Will we have a one-lap shootout?
I think the latest the safety car can come in will be to leave 2 green flag racing laps left. So we should get the safety car coming in on lap 33 at the latest. That's probably the worst time for the safety car to come out for Cameron Searle. Keeps Joe right in it, brings Geek back into it as well. It's going to be a very interesting finish. Cameron Searle, it was a very lovely move down the inside into turn 1. Joe struggling to keep holding. His Geek has got a penalty for drive.
Oh dear.
Speeding under the safety car. That is Geek's afternoon absolutely wrecked, because that's going to drop him into last place, because he's got to serve that in the final 3 laps of this race. That's not good.
As who is Loughton, I think, hits Bluefire under the safety car here. Not ideal. I mean, having said that, Geek is going to drop to the back, as you mentioned. He's going to be behind AD on the restart. With 2 laps to go, he's going to end up like 8th, I reckon. 8th or 9th, with just how ridiculous these penalties are. It's not as bad as it could be, but it is bad.
Yeah, well, he's going to lose 20 seconds driving through the pit lane. It's going to be a lot of time to make up. He's a fast driver, but I doubt he'll get anywhere near the top 10, to be honest, unless people are really slow on the restart. But 5 will become 4 as Geek will drop to the back of the field. Cameron Searle sitting pretty out in front, but Dazen has looked incredibly racy for the first 32 laps of this race. I would not count him out. Or Matty Mumu. It's been a quiet afternoon, or evening, in fact, for Matty Mumu, but there is still the hunger in there to try and get the win, beat his teammate, and try and get back the championship lead from Cameron Searle, who if it stays like this, will be taking a big lead going into round 4. Brilliant for the AlphaTauri driver, who I think has been in 3 different cars for the first 3 races. That's a little bit confusing, but yeah, it's been a very good start and probably unexpected. I don't think people would have thought maybe Cameron Searle was going to be up there challenging for the championship. I think, you know, as a driver that is usually featuring around sort of the top 5, top 10 places in that region behind the big names that we usually have, but this has been a very impressive first 3 races from Cameron to beat out the big names.
I think another person who has an outside shot at the top 3, Jareki, still on the soft tyres. So if he can dispatch of Geek reasonably, what's the word I'm looking for? Without incident, let's go with that, and reasonably early, I think he's got a shot at snatching maybe 4th place off Matti Mumu fairly early on in the restart. So that'll also be interesting to see. Geek obviously dropping down the order will send Alpha, Ice, Wooly and the Tom Hug and Assassin group that we've been seeing battling heavily up a position. So we'll be interested to see how they interact with each other on the restart into turn 1, because everything to play for, most of those drivers that I've just mentioned are on even penalties, so they still have to battle each other. Ice is going to be caught up in the middle of that, knowing that even if he loses position or 2, he'll end up ahead. But Alpha, Wooly, Tom, Assassin, all on even penalties. So that's another battle that we're going to be seeing into the last couple of laps here. Also, another thing to mention, no DRS. So
no, that is correct.
So they are going to be battling without the assistance of the drag reduction system. As we get underway here, Cameron Searle slowing right down for the restart.
Yeah, he's going to look to back the pack up. He should have the tyre advantage over Joe. The soft tyres are going to be worse than the mediums at this stage. It could be brain in a jam jar time for Joe at this point, because he could be losing another couple of places and falling off the podium. Blue Fire picking up a 5-second penalty for contact, which is interesting. I think getting caught out a little bit by how much they were getting backed up. Cameron Searle continuing to wait, but I think he has gone now before the final corner, and he's caught Joe napping, and this could be crucial for Joe's race because Dazen is going to be all over the back of him. Cameron Searle leads us away to start the penultimate lap of this race. Joe sat behind, but he's going to be under huge pressure from the Red Bull of Dazen behind. Is he going to make a move down to turn 1? Shapes to the right-hand side, has a look up the inside. Joe turns in hard, but I don't think he's going to have a lot to fight with here as Dazen slides his way through turn 1. Joe trying to hold it around the outside, still side by side into turn 2 as there's contact further back. Joe on the inside now for turn 2, as he comes to turn 3, pushes Dazen all the way over to the right-hand side of the track. Brilliantly defended from the Williams. He's got his teammate sat in 4th place, looking to try and make up a position as well and get on that podium with 2 laps to go. Cameron Searle looks to have this race won and done because of the battling going on behind. Like we saw in Mexico, people getting too caught up battling each other. It is Joe holding on to second for the time being, ahead of Dazen, ahead of Matti Mumu and Geek, who's yet to serve that penalty. Joe getting out of shape, coming out of the chicane, but still holds on to 2nd place.
It's still all to fight for. These drivers got to keep it clean in the last few laps here, because you don't want to throw away a race right at the very end. So it is Cameron to Joe to Dason to Matti to Geek, who has to come in to Jareki. So this is the battle for the top 5. As we come on to the final turn here, Dason still very, very close to the rear of Joe. Joe now going to have to go incredibly defensive here. Takes to the inside of the circuit. Just the opposite of what we saw before as Jareki makes the move on the pitting Geek. Come into turn 1. Jareki holding back the McLarens. We see Dason and Joe going side by side. Dason on the outside, trying to keep it clean. Again, in the same position we saw last time, but gets the inside.
Whoa, they're both off.
Wide. Oh my word. Dason losing 2 positions in the end. That is going to be a steward's call, I reckon, post-race. Can't be too pleased about that.
No, crazy scenes on the final lap. Dazen trying to right the wrongs of what he did on the previous lap, but Joe's got a 5-second penalty. That's going to kill his podium chances. He's going to fall right down to the lower reaches of the top 10. Dazen gets out of shape. Matti Mumu's, it's almost fall into place for him here because he's going to finish 2nd place for the 2nd weekend running. Cameron Searle, though, who was he was in that leading trio for most of the race. Once he got up into the lead, he has stayed there and he has pulled away absolutely brilliantly on this safety car restart. It's been a brilliant drive. He's going to become a back-to-back race winner for the AlphaTauri team. Cameron Searle rounds the final corner to pick up a second win in a row. He is the winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Joe will cross the line second on the road, but will tumble down the order. Dazen will complete the podium behind Matti Mumu. Jaraki fourth ahead of Ice. Joe will end up in sixth place there. Alpha, Wooly, Tom Hug, and Assassin gets ahead of Huis Lamilton thanks to time penalties at the end. Geek will finish down in 15th place. What an end to the race. What a brilliant drive from Cameron Searle, and what brilliant racing from our top five.
Yeah, I imagine the stewards could be very busy after this race. I would be surprised if Joe's penalty doesn't get overturned there, because that was interesting racing from himself and the Red Bull, as we see, of course, Cameron using his levitation ability to celebrate a very, very deserved P1 there.
Yeah, brilliantly done. Kept himself in the race, kept himself with that leading group throughout the races. His qualifying pace wasn't anything special. I think he was P5 or P6 on the grid. But yeah, his race pace has been sublime in these opening three races, and it's going to give him a considerable championship lead, although his main rival Matti Mumu did end up finishing in second place thanks to the contact between Joe and Dazen on the last lap. Yeah, it was interesting. It was very, very hard racing between the two drivers going through turn three. What would your take be on that? Do you think a penalty... we don't want to influence people's decisions, obviously. Do you think a penalty will get dished out for that?
I like I say, I'd be very surprised if that doesn't get overturned. I have spent a considerable amount of hours in the stewarding booth for various series, and that would look like something that would be dished the other way around. If I was stewarding it, that would be mine. But obviously, I'm a GT driver. I see these very differently. So, who do we want for interviews, do we reckon?
A lot of candidates. Got to talk to Cameron Searle, obviously. Race
Indeed.
winner. I'd like to talk to Joe as well. And I don't think we've spoken to Dazen before, so I think it'd be nice to bring them in to see what they have to say about that race, because involved in the thick of it for the majority as well. We'll look to get the final race results as soon as possible confirmed. But yeah, the 5-second penalty Joe got for overtaking off the track, probably not fair. Will he get some kind of penalty for what happened? I don't know. It looked a little bit 50-50 in my opinion. But at the end of the day, there doesn't have to be a blame apportioned to one of our drivers. It can be a racing incident, which F1 seem to have forgotten is a possible outcome, for instance, in real life. Anyone else you want to shout out, though?
I've been investigating the F1 drivers chat, and it looks like Dason has no voice. COVID, unfortunately. So we'll need to bring in. I think Matti Mumu. I'd love to have a chat with him, because he's been right in the thick of it the entire race there. So I think those will be our three.
Yeah, sounds good, as we will get ready to bring them to you. I do want to shout out Ice, though, who had some very good battles throughout that race in the Haas. I think came home in 6th or 7th at the end. Brilliant drive from him. If I had a Driver of the Day award, I would probably give it to the Haas driver for giving us some very good overtaking action, and that dummy move on the McLaren of Tom Hug was outstanding. I was a big fan of that one.
All right, it looks like we've got our interviewees lined up and ready. Who would you like first? I think race winner.
I think we save race winner till last.
Ooh.
Should we go with Matti Mumu to start off?
Right.
Matti. An interesting race. You got a front row seat to the battles going on at the end. Firstly, I want to ask you what happened on lap 1, though, with that trip over the chicane, which lost you quite a few places, and then the disconnect that followed that as well.
That was the disconnect that followed that. I
Yes.
think he's taking it very literally here. Are we allowed to bring him back. I'm making the executive decision to try and steal him again and see whether this will work. There we go.
I think they're being talked to by Dasher.
Hello, Matty. You here?
Well, this is not ideal. It has to be said.
Communication issues in the pit lane.
Communication issue.
He's currently stuck on the wonderful connecting issue. Perhaps we may have to do him last.
Potentially, yeah. Well, should we bring Joe in next to see?
Yes.
As our replacement. Joe, hopefully you can hear us, unlike your teammate.
Yes, I can.
Excellent stuff. An exciting race, lots of battling throughout, lots of jostling for position. How would you summarise your Hungarian Grand Prix?
Botched the strategy. It was pretty. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, sorry.
Shouldn't have gone on the softs at all. Really, the mediums were much better. For the whole of the after the second safety car malarkey. So, yeah.
Were they used softs then?
They were basically new. They were 2%. So
okay.
They were used, but basically new. But they just didn't hang on at all, and they degged off first 2 laps, and I couldn't even break DRS to Cameron. So, yeah.
This is something I was going to ask. After the first couple of laps on the soft, you'd pulled out around about a second lead. Do you reckon you'd have been able to take the W if that safety car hadn't come out?
I think the safety car actually helped me. It might have helped me because Cameron was ahead, and it's likely that he would have dropped me because he had a lot more grip, and he did drop me on the safety car restart. So if anything, I think it might have helped me, the second safety car, with my bad choice of strategy. But I don't know if the 5-second penalty I got for an illegal overtake right at the end there with a bit of funny contact model will result in me keeping that 5 second. So it will be interesting. It might have been bad for me. It might have been good for me. Don't know. Yeah.
Pace-wise, though, it was really interesting. It looked like all of you in the top 5 had almost identical pace for 75% of the race, and then the strategies diverged a little bit, which was where Cameron and then Dazen and Matty managed to get the advantage on the medium tyres. How possible do you think the win was if you went on to the mediums? Do you think you could have held on to the position? Because there was a lot of flip-flopping in the first 20 laps or so.
Yeah. I think I could have won it if I did the same strategy as them, if I did the mediums as well, because the only overtaking opportunity is the back straight, and even on the dead softs I was still managing to get a good enough exit to keep a car behind. But yeah, I think it was definitely possible. I was fast enough. I don't know if Matty didn't have his internet issue, if he would have been faster, because he had a really good race start, and he'd pulled a little bit of a gap. So I'm not sure. But around here, strangely, even though it's a lot of dirty air and corners, still just being in the slipstream was so much faster than leading. The DRS was worth so much time, even though it's really small. I remember Desan overtook me, and then I overtook him within 2 laps. I was like, wow, the being behind a car is actually way faster, which really surprised me, because I thought it'd be horrific through Sector 2, but it wasn't that bad.
Excellent stuff. Well, provisionally P6, I think it was. Obviously, crossed the line in second. If that does get overturned, put you back on the podium. It's been an interesting first 3 races for you. The pace is obviously there, and you've been towards the front in most of them. How do you see the final 5 races going?
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 tracks are like my worst 2 tracks in the game, so being just behind wasn't terrible. I mean, I got ridiculously unlucky in Kota with 2 safety cars and being spun around. And then Mexico, I was stupid twice. I just got a VSC drive-through for literally no reason, just being dumb, and then wasted a lot of time battling that wasn't really necessary. So just a few silly mistakes that, I tend to do this a lot. Towards the start of the season, I sort it out by the end, but yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to us, though. Thank you for talking to us. Is Marley? Have you got anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think it's been a good interview, and I think you've had some excellent questions, and I think that we should end on more excellent questions.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for talking to us, Joe. We wish you very good luck for next weekend and the rest of the season.
Yep, thank you.
So, do we have an update on the state of Matimumu's internet?
You know what? Let's test it.
Let's give it a try. We'll see what happens. Matty, third time's a charm, maybe? Can we hear you? I believe that is a no, which is a shame. But yeah, we'll probably have to skip over the Matty Mumu interview because with those technical difficulties, does it give us time to maybe talk to a different person? We've obviously got Cameron Searle waiting as the race winner. I think people would have probably logged off by now, so we'll keep it to just the 2 interviews, and we'll probably look to bring in our race winner.
He is screen sharing at the minute, so he may say something mid-sentence. So that's why I'm going to bring him in.
Cool. We're here for the moment. Cameron, hello. We've only got a 50% success rate of people being able to hear us and respond. So can you hear us now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent.
Success.
Excellent news. Back-to-back race wins. The qualifying pace didn't look amazing, but you got yourself in a good position. The race pace, though, was just extremely strong, very consistent, some good hard racing in there as well. And then the final stint on the safety car restart, you managed to drop everyone behind you.
Well, you make that sound a lot more relaxed than it actually was. The first part of the race, well, up until the first safety car, I had major problems. I was going to run out of fuel on the last lap. Yeah, quite a lot of the guys at the front were under on fuel. So that just ended up a case of who could lift and coast the best, as it were. The DRS was helping, but I didn't really have the pace. I think the other guys were struggling with other things up at the front. Yeah, and then we had the safety car, and then from then it just went my way a bit more, as it were.
I do want to ask you quickly about the that final safety car. With the medium tyres, was there ever a temptation to put the soft tyres on like Joe did?
No, not at all. No, we saw what happened to Jareki after about lap 2 or 3, and he wasn't able to make a move on Geek in the first stint. So I think that I was more of the opinion I wouldn't, even if I did get past, I wouldn't be able to brake from any of the medium runners behind. So it was play it safe, go on the mediums, and then hope Joe's died in time.
And just give us an experience of how battling the other 2 lead runners there was for you, battling Joe and battling Dason throughout the first 20, 30 laps there, because from our perspective, it was getting pretty tenuous on some of those overtakes.
I think, as I said, the first part, I don't think any of us were really battling. It was more managing fuel, managing tyre wear, managing battery. After the safety car, however, it did get a little bit heated, certainly behind after the second safety car. I was watching my mirrors and enjoying that one at the end. But yeah, no, in the first stint, I think it was people occasionally making the odd mistake, and then you get half a run. You either back out or you get past and they sort of let you through in that instance. So it wasn't too bad in that first part of the race, but as you all saw, the second half exploded.
Yes, very much so. Back-to-back race wins, championship leader. Next week we are at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Do you fancy your chances there?
I don't want to say yes, but I do prefer Spain to Hungary. I wasn't supposed to win tonight. It should have been Matt. He got very unlucky with that early disconnect. He was definitely the quickest start of all of us. But yeah, it should be slightly nicer in terms of just pure pace for me.
Well, that's going to be worrying to everybody else if you can still pick up a race win when it's not one of your better tracks. So we wish you good luck for then. Good luck for the rest of the season. Excellent win from you this evening. And yeah, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much, guys.
That concludes what has been a very exciting Hungarian Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, we had everything. We had the pure. It was brilliant to even watch qualifying. Just the drivers going all out. We had those very close to esport times toward the end of that session. The race, as we saw, lots of jostling for position, lots of battling, lots of mistakes, especially as we came into the safety cars. People taking DTs, late race position changes, and of course the fireworks that we saw from Dason and Joe at the very end there. So overall, cracking race. It's been an honour to commentate over it.
Yes, I echo the same thing. Really enjoyable first 3 races actually to start this season off. It's been really good to watch. Next week, like I said, we go to Spain for the Barcelona track. We've got this will be the first time we're running without that final chicane, that horrible chicane in the third sector that ruins all overtaking. So look forward to that. We'll also have the usual ACC and iRacing content coming during the week. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
I've decided I'm winning the next ACC race, and if I don't, I'm ignoring everyone from me. Next week is Laguna Seca, which is not the favourite of some people. It's one of my favourite tracks because I'm contrarian like that. Very narrow, especially for GT3 cars, so should be cracking racing. iRacing as well, coming up on Thursday next week. That's going to be the GR86s at Rudskogen, which is very odd track. This isn't a track that a lot of people know, so it should be cracking battling. If you don't know the track, look it up. It is a beautiful circuit. And then, yeah, of course, hopefully, I believe next week I'm also on the road to commentate. So I'll be back right here, same place next week, same time. Yeah, looking forward to the next week. And the Rally Championship. I have been reminded about the Rally Championship. The only reason I haven't mentioned it is because I don't compete in it. I do apologise to all the people who do compete in the Rally Championship. I'm not sure where they are next week, but it's going to be some good racing there. If you are interested in joining the BUSR, we do mid-season signups for all of our leagues. So if you are interested, come along to BUSR. It's busr.gg/discord to join us. All of the information will be in the server. Just give a ping to one of our staff members and they'll be able to assist you.
Yes, get involved. It's an excellent community.
Yes.
It's an excellent community to be involved in. But that's going to round out your F1 fix for the week. I've been Tom. My trim is in an absolute state right now. Yeah, brilliant race this evening. Looking forward to next week. Do you want to sign us off, Marley?
See you next week. It's been cracking racing. I've been an honour to be finally back in the commentary booth, and yes, catch you in our chats or in our races next week.
See you then.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Houston, if you're ready, we'll maneuver. Reaching out.
moment in history where I could stand and say, arithmetic begins here, now.
Rainbow Road.